Welcome, filmmakers. I'm so glad you're here with us this morning. Let us know where you're watching from and what do you do in the biz? And possibly most important today, are you gearing up for your first feature or your first micro budget feature? Because we're going to want to know what questions you have as we go along the way. All that goes in the comment box, and we will see that the whole time we're doing this. If you are new, we welcome to Blackmagic Collective. We are a collective of film and TV artists and crew. We have events, initiatives, classes on the business, the craft of filmmaking. We have these initiatives that are all about career advancement. And we're going to have a bunch of events coming up in person, it looks like soon or this summer. So keep an eye out for those. Membership is free. And when you join, you get the newsletter once a month, and it tells you what's going on. And you can be the first to know about everything. Thank you to our sponsor, Blackmagic Design, for keeping us going all year, and Sigma for your support this year. And this, thank you, a very special thank you to this event's sponsor, artlist.io. If you're not familiar with Artlist and ArtGrid, I highly recommend you go check them out. At our next event, our next micro budget event will be post-production, and we'll show you a little bit more about Artlist and how that can help you as an indie filmmaker on a micro budget. And one lucky winner will get a year subscription. So you'll get a free year to try it out. So stick around to the end, because we pick our winners at the end, and we definitely go by who's vocal in the chat. We want this to be part of a community. So make sure that you are asking questions, talking to one another, encouraging each other. Okay, so today we welcome, let's just start with that. Welcome to part 3 of our micro budget series, filming your feature in under 15 days. What are the most important things to consider when you make a high quality film in a short time and on a limited budget? Our panelists are going to get into all of that today. Just so you know, I am the executive director of Blackmagic Collective. I came on just to create more initiatives to help filmmakers get work. But I'm a director. I've directed 6 feature films. 4 of those were shot in under 15 days. 1 was shot in 7, and 1 was shot in 5. I do not recommend that. But I have a lot to share with you guys, as do our panelists. First up, we have Emily Aguilar. She has sold multiple micro-budget films through Target, Walmart, PureFlix, Amazon Prime, and HBO Max. And we have Jeannette Godoy. She's fresh off directing HBO Max's show, The Garcias, and is in post-production on her film that she shot in 15 days. Oh, side note, what I just found out, Jeannette choreographed her Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back. I didn't know you were like royalty, Jeannette. I just had to bring that up. It's like a lifetime ago. Thank you both for being here. I want to just get started right off the top. Like, how about, what was one thing you wish you knew before you went into your first micro budget feature? Just one, huh?
I'll go ahead and start. I wish I knew that it was going to take longer than I thought. So I had actually prepped for 3 years, and it actually ended up taking 5. I mean, the pandemic didn't help, but there were times where I was super, super impatient, and you just have to go with it. So kind of wish I knew that.
Can you talk about why it took 3, like obviously 5 years? You're just prepping, is it just raising money? What are all the things that are keeping you from getting out there and filming?
So the thing that actually postponed the completed film was actually post-production. So we definitely finished the shooting and everything in 2018. And from 2018 to 2021, it was in post and in negotiations. So negotiations alone actually took a year also. And yeah, I'm the executive producer of the movie. So with that being said, I definitely took the investment for the film as well.
We're going to dive more into that. Jeannette, what is one thing you wish you knew before you went and shot this feature in 15 days?
Gosh, I mean, I think just, I think I was hyper organized shooting, but I could have used even a little more definitive organization in terms of the scenes with the actors and what I needed from them. I think I got a lot, but I just, because my prep was not 3 years, my prep was 6 weeks. So because I prepped in such a short time frame, I had to work so hard on the logistics of getting the film on its feet that in the actual performance part of it, I was so lucky that I had an amazing cast. But, when you get into post, you go, oh, I wish I had one take where she was going at it from this sort of perspective. So that's just one thing that, I will focus on even more next time.
Let's start in the beginning then. So how much did you guys tweak your scripts just to make it fit your budget and time frame? Like, because I know we all start with our script and we have it's the $2 million, $8 million feature film, and then we go, okay, I have to now make this fit in a 15-day shoot on 35 grand, whatever it is. How much was tweaking, or did you guys already, was your script set and you didn't have to tweak at all?
Jeannette, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, we did have to tweak. Now we went into, so mine, wasn't a micro budget, even though it was 15 days, but we went into it knowing that we were going to have to basically shoot a majority of the film in one location, obviously to save money, right? So I did have to tweak the film to make different scenes. Instead of a party, it was a little breakfast. Like, I had to change things that were like big grand scenes in the film to much smaller, more manageable situations. I mean, that's 100%.
Yeah, we had
all location and time dependent was, yeah.
We had in Playing with Beethoven, which was my last feature film. We had the scene. It was written to have a big epic ending with a bunch of students in this auditorium and everybody watching this competition. And we're like, nope, it's going to be a competition with the kind where there's only 3 judges and an empty auditorium. And it works. It's a different feeling though. And I think as a filmmaker, when you're doing micro budget, one thing you have to be is flexible. You cannot be rigid. Emily, how much tweaking did you do? I mean, it sounds like you were developing it for a while. Did you write your script that you did?
I did write it, and I was already thinking of locations and places and things that, like the resources I had ahead of time while I was writing it, just because I knew I was going to have to put it together somehow. So in my brain, I was already racking things up. I will say one thing that I just remembered that we tweaked. In the movie, we were going to do a humongous bake-off challenge at the end with actual ovens, and we actually wanted to get a humongous kitchen where the kids would do their bake-off challenge. And because of budget and other restrictions and stuff like that, we actually had to go with a no-bake bake-off challenge. And we wrote it into the script. And that's actually one of the things that we had to do. And it ended up working really great because it was a really funny moment and crucial thing towards the end of the movie. So spoiler if you haven't seen it. But yeah, definitely being flexible is super important for indie features. Mm-hmm.
Love that. How important, I know prep is important, let's say period. How much did prep save you? What were the key things you were thinking about? Obviously, look, we've talked about script and locations. What are some other things in prep that you just had to really be on top of and maybe change from the script, or just you knew it was coming, so you had to just be prepared to shoot it in a shorter time? Does anything come to mind?
Absolutely. So I will say that I storyboarded 80% of the movie myself. And my storyboards aren't anything fancy, some stick figures here and there. But I definitely went over my storyboards on my shot list with my DP way ahead of time. We were already looking, since we were in LA and shooting in Virginia, we were already looking at videos and photos and really trying to imagine the space ahead of time. And literally just plan, because Bree's Bake Off Challenge was shot in 14 days. And, that's not the easiest thing to do. And when I approached my DP, Laura Jansen, she's amazing. She was like, okay, we really need a plan for this. So for this, we really, really planned everything to a T as much as possible. And then we were ready for, the things that happen on set.
Oh, I want to ask you a quick question, follow up on that, because so normally in micro budget and short, quick shoots, food is a nightmare. So if someone's supposed to be eating breakfast, you can't really even let them eat because you don't have the time to reset and do all that. Your whole movie is based around this bake-off challenge. I'm assuming there was baking in it and lots of food to deal with. How did you manage that?
Absolutely. So my production design team definitely had a lot of fun taking on the bakes, and we had various stages of each bake. And definitely we had craft services all the time, meals and stuff like that. Wasn't the one thing for filmmakers to know. The one thing that you don't be cheap on is food. So you need to have snacks, foods, all that stuff available on set at all times. And then we were lucky that we had various green rooms specifically for the kids and for the adults. But yeah, they definitely had fun eating the bakes when sometimes I told them not to.
Jeannette, I know you're like a prep queen. What are some of the biggest things that you really wanted to make sure you had down before you ever hit set?
Well, I mean, similar to Emily, it was going in on a very strategic, organized deep dive with my cinematographer, Megan Stacy, who is amazing. We were really faced with the challenge of our location had both indoors and outdoors, and a lot of times we would be shooting inside toward out. So it was so problematic having 3 grip and electric. Like, we didn't have tons of hands on deck in order to create shadows or sun blasting in. So Megan and I really took the shot list with a fine scalpel, and we planned out every single shot. And I went to the location. I mean, I must have gone to the location 8 to 10 times before we started shooting, at all times of the day, morning, noon, nighttime, and took really strategic photos. I don't typically do storyboards. I do photo boards, so exact angles. And I went over it with Megan. I went over it with the AD, so that when we went in, we had a very, very specific map. Now, we sometimes had to be fluid. Sometimes we were running out of time, and we knew we weren't going to get the coverage. So we would have to go, okay, this is going to be a one, or we're going to run out of the day. But we shot with 2 cameras, but there was never a day where we had less than 25 setups. Not one day.
Wow.
So the planning the shots down to the T was the only way we could make it.
I find that whenever we're in these micro budget situations, especially in the quick filming, you always come with a shot list, but you cannot be, as you were saying, like sometimes you have to throw it out and like, we're gonna have to make this be a oneer. Like you cannot be set on that shot list. And one of the biggest things I always tell filmmakers who ask me these questions is I say, know what your money shots are for that day. So if you know that like, whenever I was filming a short once, I spent a bulk of our day on just the opening of the film. And everybody was like, you're going to run out of time. I'm like, it doesn't matter. The other stuff we're shooting today, it's tiny in the script. It's minuscule in the script. This sets the mood. We've got to spend the time here. So if you know that when going in, you can be more fluid with where you can chop other stuff. It's super important. So you guys both shot fast. How are you keeping yourselves nimble? I mean, you guys have tiny crews. I think, Jeannette, you said you had a very small G&E team. Was it tiny crews for both of you? Like, any thoughts on it?
Mine wasn't tiny. I mean, we did have 2 camera crews. You know what I mean? So because it is a big film, it's got golf tournaments and all. I mean, it's pretty sizable and a giant cast. So, but still, our department was production designer, decorator, prop person, and 4, and that's nothing on a film, as big as it was. So yeah, I mean, it was tricky. It was definitely tricky, and you had to be so organized. I'm sure you're the same, Emily.
Absolutely. And I will say I had 2 cameras on set also. So if you're doing an indie feature, please have 2. It'll save you.
Yeah.
And with the setups and everything. So yeah, we definitely had to prepare for both cameras rolling at all times. That just saves you time-wise. And the other thing, I just want to mention that so my crew, we had 25 crew members, and give or take on some days were different here and there. But yeah, it was definitely smaller than what you would think. But again, with indie features and with what we were doing, like I already told some crew members, hey, I'm going to need you to do this and this on this day. Hey, I'm going to need you to do this and this. So I think just the importance of communicating, like, more than you think you have to, just so that everybody's on the same page is key with all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think sometimes directors hold a lot of stuff close to the chest, and it's not helping anybody. Right. So, like, there's something.
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, Jen, but I was going to say, even to the actors, when talking to them, like, okay, are you ready to jump into this? Because we're going to get 2, maximum 3 takes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just letting you know, are you ready to go on this ride with us? Because it's going to be fast, and we're going to be coming in hot every single day. And there's not going to be a lot of conversation about where your motivation is. And I mean, of course, I would try to have those, especially in emotional moments, right? I would try to, like, can we all take a minute? Let me sit here and talk to her for a second. But But honestly, it was like the actors, the crew, everybody had to know what we were all about to like just jump into in order to literally sprint through to make it happen. And we only shot 10-hour days. So it was pretty hardcore.
The when it comes to the cast too, that's so important in your prep that you're casting. Sometimes you don't have a lot of say over the names that get put in, and you have
Right.
to work around potential scheduling problems or sadly sometimes attitudes. But any other cast you have control over, you've got to pick team players. They've got to like you got to tell them what they're getting into before they sign on. Like they have to understand that. I remember on the 5-day feature, we were at a point where, because I was still making time for beautiful shots. I still wanted dolly shots and all of that stuff. So at one point I told my own actor, I was like, look, you've got like 2-page monologue right now. Like you've got to do it in one take. And he just was like, he just prepped and he went and he did it. And he one take, and then you get enough coverage so that you can cut around that. You get your other cast members and stuff. I cannot tell you enough how important it is for you filmmakers to know how to edit. You have to be able to edit in your head when you're on set, especially when you're moving this fast. It's also helpful to have an AD who's really good at editing so the two of you can bounce off, or your DP, but you can bounce it off. Okay, we got this, then we would cut to this, we'll cut to that. Okay, great, we got it. We can move on because it goes so fast. I want to go back, though, to Emily. You talked about 2 cameras, and Jeannette, you also use 2 cameras. I've always refused to use 2 cameras because I feel like it's always taken up more time. I'd love to hear how you guys work with 2 cameras. When do you use them? Do you always use them? How do you set them up? Any wisdom you can impart?
So I'll just say that I definitely prepped with Laura, my DP, on the 2 cameras. So we definitely put the the ground sheet down, and we were like, okay, if camera A is here, where is B? And we did that as much as possible. Like, I kid you not, there was long days, and then we go order some pizza or something after. But we definitely planned that ahead of time, just because we knew that we didn't want to take up all that set time figuring out where they were. So just FYI for indie filmmakers, you have to take the time before then. And then we basically planned that as much to a T. And she was already thinking of like, okay, I'm going to put these lights here. I'm going to have the G&E here. We're going to do the props here and all of that stuff. So when I say the planning was like meticulous, it was really meticulous. And I've actually always shot with 2 cameras. So I definitely just recommend that, just because if you plan it accordingly, then it can work, and it has for me at least.
That's great. Jeannette, how did you guys work with your 2 cameras?
Yeah, I mean, same. I had also just come off of the Garcias, where we also shot with 2 cameras with an enormous, principal cast. And I think in that space, like if you have a big cast, that second camera's got to be on somebody at all times. Now, light accordingly, right? Like sometimes 2 cameras didn't always work for lighting. And, but there were very few times where we weren't rolling both cameras. For sure, you just have to plan it meticulously. Cross shooting doesn't always work. Sometimes it's the wide and the tight on one of the, the main character, but basically same angle. But I couldn't have gotten the film in the can without it. And there was a period where the producers were like, yeah, we can't afford the 2 cameras. Like, sorry, we talked about it, but we can't do it. And I was like, I can't get this film then. There's no way I can get it, because just having come off the Garcias, which was only, a 5-day shoot, but having equally as big principal cast, I just knew I won't make these days. You want me to work in a 10-hour day for like, I won't make them unless I have 2 cameras rolling. So
That's great. Yeah, I was gonna put that. Kayla put it up for me. If Pacific Studio says, if you don't have 2 camera operators, make the camera as portable as possible. Build a battery-powered rig that mounts on a tripod. Tripod dollies are cheap. You can easily reset your cam. Another option is to put a second camera on a motorized slider. I think that having a DP who really wants to, you guys both talk about your DPs and how they spent time with you and you guys are able to prep. I've had a lot of times where I'm not able to have prep. Like I got hired on my 4th feature. I think they had fired their director and I had 1 week to like read the script and get any sense of what's happening. And then we were in production. So I just go back to the best thing you're going to be able to do is be nimble. But I've also shot 130 projects beyond the features. So I think that's the other thing is like getting out there and continually shooting. If you're a new filmmaker, do not take on your feature as your first project. Do a bunch of little things, even if it's your own camera and you're out walking around and shooting and making it happen yourself. All right. So let's talk about scheduling. How did you guys, as much as you can remember, how did you schedule out your days on these short shoots? How many, I think you told us pages, but remind me about how many pages you were doing per day. Just all things scheduling. Jeannette, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was so our schedule was very tricky because we were shooting at Malibu Ranch Inn. I forget what Malibu, not Country Mart. For some reason, I can't remember the name. How can I not remember the name? I was there for hours and hours and hours. Calamigos Ranch. Hello. And it was playing as one country club, but really it's a ranch that's all these event planning, these event venues. So they're not really connected. So I had to sort of connect the spaces. We had to work around events happening in individual spaces. So maybe we were going to try to shoot the dinner scene at one room, but then it got booked. So then it had to turn into a lunch scene in another space. Like the scheduling was actually pretty crazy. Thankfully, I had an amazing AD, Kareem Nabil, who honestly couldn't have been more incredible. But I mean, again, with the organization, the scheduling that we were doing, I would say minimum 9 pages a day or 9 to 12 pages a day and minimum 22 setups. One of the days we shot 10 scenes and 42 setups. So it was pushing it incredibly hard. But the scheduling, I mean, like I said, there were times where he would say, we're going to lose this space in 15 minutes. We don't have time for the coverage. Okay, so now it's a oneer. Come in, sit down, the scene plays out. Like that's just all you could do to get it.
Insane. Emily?
That is crazy. Oh my goodness. So with Breeze Breakout Challenge, we definitely planned by locations. So we filmed all of the house locations first, and then we moved over to the high school. And the high school, just like with your location, Jeannette, there were events going on still throughout the summer of the high school, so we had to like work around that. And so luckily, we were able to like for example, if we were filming in the gym one day, the school had told us, hey, film on the gym this day because it's going to be really loud over here because they're going to be doing some cheerleading thing, or film in the art classrooms this day because there's something else going on. So it took a lot of communicating with the location and figuring out those logistics as much as possible. So just to make sure that we were all on the same page and trying to aim for the best quality film possible. And with scheduling, yeah, definitely my producers and my AD, definitely, I want to say every day on the phone, just making sure we were planning and thinking of everything like worst case scenario. And I honestly can't remember, but I want to say we filmed at least like 10 pages a day. There were some where we probably filmed more, but I really can't remember. And, but yeah, we definitely emphasized filming like per location. So we're going to knock out this gym location first, and then we're going to knock out this art classroom. And then we kind of went from there, because then we were able to basically, we had to move all the camera and gear and all of the props and stuff over to the next spot. So it was one of those things we couldn't be going back and forth. We had to get everything done and then move on.
I think that's a staple in any filmmaking, especially in quick filmmaking and micro budget filmmaking, where you have to shoot based on location, which can be tough for actors if they've got multiple scenes in that one location. So as a director, you gotta continually keep them updated on where you're going next. So as they're getting ready, they know what they're coming into, and reminding them when you're on set, remind them where they've just come from in the script, so that you don't get flat performances, because block shooting, it's great for production. It's terrible for actors.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, as I was saying, the day that we had shot 10 scenes and 42 setups in one house, one house, and my lead actress, I have to just give her all the props in the world, Samantha Boscarino. She was from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, all the scenes in between, from happy, chaotic, drunk, crying, getting ready for work. Like, just she must have felt like she had a split personality that day, and she just really killed it. And I have to say, similar to you, like, our whole schedule had to work around the fact that we needed to shoot on an actual golf course. And I don't know if you are aware, but they are very, very expensive to rent out, and it's almost impossible to get one without other people on it. We had to shoot an entire golf tournament. So our whole movie sort of got pushed around this one day that we got to shoot and afford a golf course. And then everything else had to work around that. And, Calamigos Ranch, we shot for 10 days. And then, we planned everything so meticulously according to the locations. But you're right. The actors were just like, okay, you're in this outfit, then you're in this outfit, then this happened. And then you just won and you lost. And it was crazy.
At one point, one of our actors, we realized that he was in the wrong shirt for the scene he was in. So he literally did a quick shoot where he goes in his bedroom and smells all his dirty laundry and puts on the shirt that's the wrong shirt. So it makes sense that he's suddenly in a different shirt.
I love that.
You got to be, man, I think it's all being nimble, being fluid. It's the key to all of this. I believe, I know, Emily, you did. Jeannette, I feel like you did. What is you're working with kids, basically. I love working with kids. I think it's great. The problem becomes when you only can have them a certain amount of hours and you're trying to shoot this in limited days. Emily, do you want to speak to how you dealt with those issues?
Yeah, that was definitely something that was really difficult because we really had to, cater to the hours, basically. So with that, basically, in a nutshell, and what we did is we scheduled the kids' stuff and made that a priority. And then when it was time for them to go, we had the adults come in and do that also. So that's basically what it took. And again, just like there were times where when we had the kids, we had to do just a wide shot and, call it a day, or do only spend an hour. Like with the bake sale, actually, with that scene, we actually ended up running out of time because the sun was going down and, the setups took longer. So for the bake sale, we're like, all right, everybody, just cameras rolling and pretend you're in a bake sale and go. So a lot of that stuff was really on the go. And that was probably, for the most part, that was the most difficult scene that we had. But yeah, just my producers and I had a real fun doozy, just planning the hours for that.
Jeannette, how about you? I know you were working with kids on Garcia's, but did you have kids?
Yeah. No, I had one scene with a little kid on. Actually, I had two, but they were very minimal, so it didn't really play too far into my scheduling issues. But it is something that you don't really think about. The limited. What I did have on my feature was a cat, so that's a whole other ball of wax.
And you did it legit, like with
yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, wow. Talk to everybody about that, because I feel like I've always used my own dog or something if I need an animal.
Yeah. I had done some commercials for PetSmart back in the day, so I definitely had already experienced working with animal trainers and unpredictable animals, even though they're trained.
Yeah.
And so on my feature, we had a cat. It had a sort of a twin cat as well, in case, because one was sort of more snuggly and one was a little feistier. And that was on my day where we shot 10 scenes in the house. So the cat had to go through their, whole gamut of behavior the way the actress did. And you just don't, you just have to let the camera roll, and you have to hide the trainer in specific places, and you have to hide the food in specific places. We hid the food in the couch, and the cat would jump onto the couch to get the food, but then its booty was always toward the camera. And I was like, okay, no, I don't want the cat's booty. Like, we got to get, so, it does take some finagling, and you just really do have to be patient, and just understand that it's not going to happen. It's not going to be simple. Let's just put it that way. It's not going to be simple.
Yeah. That's amazing. I want guys, if you don't see many questions going in here, so I know you're watching, so throw your questions in as we go, because we're getting to the end of mine. I want to ask you guys about permits. I'm going to probably put myself on some kind of flagged watch right now, but I literally never get permits for these micro budget shoots. Emily, did you guys deal with permits?
Yes, we did. I'd say if you're filming in a location for indies, like a family house or a friend's house or something like that, that's low key, definitely, you can get away with it. But for the high school location, we definitely had the permit, insurance, and all of that. And for the filmmakers watching, if you have a big location, like a school or even, a golf cart or ranch, there's definitely requirements. There's definitely fees and insurance. And try not to get overwhelmed. But definitely, it's just a checklist. Like, just call, figure out what they need, and then start basically getting what they need. Because otherwise, you can't film there because they're really it's required. So, that was fun for my producers and I to figure out.
A lot of places that say you have to have insurance and permits. You do need to have the insurance, but they never, I knock on wood, they've never asked for the actual permit. So it's always a risk. I mean, I have been filming on, it wasn't my film, but I was helping somebody out there. We were in a church, and like in a church closed, and cops came and knocked on the door. Like, what are you guys doing? And we did not have permits.
Did they still let you film?
I believe they did. But we probably told them we were done, but we kept filming.
Yeah. I think it just depends. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my whole film was fully permitted, and it was just too big of a project not to be able to do it in all these big locations like you were talking about, Emily. But on one of my short films, we rented like a Pure Space type house in over in the Venice area, and it was like a very enclosed space, and we were only shooting interiors and a small crew with like a tiny Sprinter van. No one parked in the neighborhood. Like, we were so careful. But of course, I guess that homeowner had been renting their house out a lot. So the neighbors called the police, even though we had no equipment outside. We were not shooting outside, anything. So the police came. They shut us down for like an hour while my producer was negotiating and talking and whatever. We ended up paying like a $350 fine because they wrote us a ticket on the spot. But it ended up being cheaper.
I was going to say it's cheaper than
and he said that we couldn't shoot past 6 p.m. We were scheduled to shoot until 8. So again, had to think on our feet, had to drop a couple scenes, had to shoot, 1 or 2 takes and just sort of adjust and make it work.
One thing I always tell everybody is if you can work with a student producer who's in film school, who can get the letter, do it. Yeah. Gives you cheap, if not free, permits. Another trick around this, I gotta stop saying this stuff in public because they're gonna flag me. Photo permits. If you have a tiny crew, you can do a photo permit. It's like $60, and it'll give you a permit. And as long as you're not there with a bunch of people and like booms, and everything out. Meh. Done that for parks before for commercial shoots, but so. I would love to hear. So we've talked about all the hard parts. What are the best parts of shooting a micro budget or a short time frame?
Honestly, for me, the best part is the end product. Like, once it's done, I can see like, okay, everything that we planned and my vision is on screen. Like, yes, we did it. And for Breeze Bake Off, I mean, I really wrote a lot of fun stuff, and we were all like eating sweets and things and like that. So it was really fun. I mean, being on set, I think all of us know, is the best feeling in the world. But definitely, once the movie's done, it's also another great feeling.
I feel like I feel like we prep forever. And by prep, I mean trying to find money or trying to find a script we want to shoot or trying to get our script. As directors, most of our life is spent off set, So when you are on set, if you look at it like a blessing and you have fun, even when it's tough, it's still a good time. Jeannette, what do you think what benefited you for shooting that film so fast? Was there anything that actually was like, because we shot it fast, this one good thing happened?
I honestly, it's really kind of crazy because it seems insane that we shot a whole feature film in 15 days. And I think when I look at the finished product, which by the way is literally just being assembled like today, I go, yeah, we shot that in 15 days. Like, did we really need more time? Like, Of course, we did need more time, but honestly, we did it. Like, and we had so much fun. The cast had a great time. Yes, we all worked hard. The crew, they busted their asses. Like, I couldn't be more grateful for them. But we had a genuinely fun set, a fun crew, a fun cast, and everybody was super psyched about the project. And that was just like the best part of it. Like, the post has been so long and interminable for me comparatively, right? I mean, and it's only been what, 5 months in post, but the 15 days to shoot it, like, that was just, it was a high, it was a blast.
I think that filmmakers need to be aware that post takes forever. When you don't have the proper funding, it's even longer. Like, it already takes a long time. If you're asking for favors, which most of the micro budget feature films are, you're asking for favors, you're getting things cheaper. I ended up having to edit my film, my last feature. And with that and all of the favors we had to ask to get sound on everything, it took us like 2 or 3 years in post, which is ridiculous for a film that we shot so fast. Emily, I think you said you've been in post for a while too.
Yeah, same kind of deal. I actually edited Breeze Bake Off myself, and all to save money and to put money elsewhere to uplift the film in other ways in post as well. So we were in post, I think it was 2.5 years, and then a year in negotiations. So 3.5 years after June 2018 to 2022 now.
And when you talk about negotiations, you're talking about for distribution?
Yes.
Is there anything you can share to help others on their journey?
Yeah, so I started off with my network. I didn't have an in at a major studio. So because I had went to film school in LA and I worked in LA, I went to my network first. And I literally asked everyone and their mother, hey, do you know somebody? Hey, this is my product. This is my product. So for filmmakers watching, definitely treat your indie feature like a product. I mean, at the end of the day, I know the creative things and being on set is amazing. And like, we all love directing, but at the end of the day, the movie has to be seen and distributed. And so that's where I had to honestly put my producer hat and become a saleswoman and really hone down on reaching out, not being afraid to ask, like, hey, can you just take a look at my trailer? And luckily, honestly, because of like my efforts and the way that I spoke about the film, people saw how passionate I was about it, and people saw the quality of the film that we put into it, that they were able to, connect the dots, and one thing led to another. And then now it's on HBO Max. So, it was just one of those, gotta do it now. Gotta push.
Awesome, by the way, the HBO Max thing, that's great. They are the like hot ticket right now.
They're amazing, yeah.
People can watch it now, or it's going to be premiering?
It is available now. So it launched April 1st. And yeah, and if you go on my Instagram, really funny, I have a story of, they told me that the movie was going to be on the app for some reason at 3:01 Eastern time. So I was like, okay, that's really random. So I wake up at 2 a.m, and then I didn't think I'd react the way that I did, but my reaction is on my Instagram, and my best friend comes over with champagne, and I literally fly behind. I like a fly when I see the the movie on the app. So I don't know, just fun thing.
I love that. That is so cool. Remind everybody what it's called.
Breeze Bake Off Challenge on HBO Max. And then my Instagram is right here, The Momentum.
Awesome. So I got so distracted by distribution. So Jeannette, you got hired to direct a feature, which is always lovely. You don't have to deal with any of that other dramas that we the rest of us had to deal with. So but in your case, I'm assuming it's a little frustrating to not be able to be as involved, not to have a say on where it goes, not to have a say on anything, not even posters. You want to talk a little bit about?
I do. I'm lucky that, so I did my film with Creator Plus, which is a small indie studio. And they have kept me completely involved in the creative process. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was giving notes on the poster, on the art, on the artwork, on the clip art, etc. It's going to the Cannes film market, and yeah, you guys will know. I know, like, I just, I'm out of that. I am out of that loop, which is hard because it's, my baby. It's my first feature, and so it is super important to me. But it's also, yay, because they can deal with that. Because I've dealt with a lot of other stuff, even though it wasn't a micro budget, it was still low budget, a low budget film. And so I had so much responsibility on it, even in post, music, et cetera, et cetera. So it was definitely, a huge intensive labor of love for me.
I will say, as someone who's been hired to direct features and who's I directed 2 that I was in full control of, and the other 4 were other people. And as much as it is nice to just not have to worry about any of the producer stuff, I did not get final cut. I did not get say in anything distribution. I did not get say in, not even final cut. I wasn't even in the room for most of the time because because the producers who normally hire you for this kind of stuff want to have full control. So it's just like it's like that split with Playing with Beethoven, full control. Anything wrong or right, I put on me, which is really nice and I love. But man, it's a lot of work to try to get as Emily knows, because she's doing it. It's so much work to get a feature out there and sold and people to actually buy it, watch it, get your investors' money back. It's exhausting.
Yeah. I feel like I had I was very, very fortunate to have, honestly, the most amazing producing team. Who really valued my creative input and gave me an equal say. I didn't have final cut, but I gave my cut. We all did notes together. We went back and forth. I heard theirs, they heard mine. It was a very genuine creative collaboration. And I'm very appreciative of that. I know it's an anomaly. And yes, there were some things where I was like, if you cut that, this scene doesn't make sense. And then it was cut. But that was literally less than 1% of my experience with them. So I really have been so fortunate in this team that I've worked with. Very, very lucky.
I love it. Kayla, if you want to start throwing the questions, I know that a lot have come in. I appreciate you guys all in the audience here. My fan guy says, it seems like pre-production is the key to low budget and fast productivity. What does your prep timeline look like? How do you know when you are ready? You're never ready. Or do you just set a date and make it happen? Yes. Emily?
Yes to all of that. So one of the key things that I did that I said was I prepped the script already while I was writing based on the resources that I had. So start thinking of your movie, start thinking of what you have. And my high school location, we reached out to like 20 high schools, but the one that we ended up going with was actually the high school that I had gone to. So yeah, so that was really surreal. But I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had prepped. I was like, I can get a school. Let me start prepping for that. For pre-production, we definitely had 6 months of pre-production. And then one of the reasons we were trying to have 8 months of pre-production, but one of the reasons why it actually turned into 6 was because my high school was like, hey, we are so happy to let you film here. Here are all the requirements. We're like, okay, great. But we're actually going to tear down the cafeteria in July or something. So you have until then. And that really sped up myself and the producers. And I think that's why they were so gung-ho to let us film, because, they transformed it and stuff. So again, I think it's like have 6 months of pre-production for features. I think that's a healthy-ish, like if more cool, but at least 6 months. And then definitely the locations, whatever they say and whatever the requirements are, I think that does give you a date. And you start there, rent the location, sign, do all that stuff, and then start telling everybody, hey, actors, we need you on these days. Hey, everybody, we need you on these days. So that's kind of how we did it for Breeze.
Well, I also think we got to be careful with having expectations that you're going to get 6 months. Emily, it was her film, so she could take as much time as she wanted, in theory. But like if you're hired, you might get hired and you get 5 weeks. You might get 3 weeks. You might get 1 week. You might get nothing. You just have to be flexible and there's no way to be more ready and flexible than to continue to shoot in the meantime while you're trying to get this feature going. Even if like you're out trying to get financing for a feature, that can't be your sole focus. You've got to be making shorts and doing other things while you're trying to get financing for a feature. You've got to keep your brain sharp, especially those of us like after the pandemic. You guys both shot after the pandemic, right? Because I feel like I had this I was directing so much I couldn't breathe. and then 2 years of almost silence. And now I can't remember what a fork is called half the time.
Right.
You find that it took you a minute to get in that groove?
So for me, I freelance and I'll make videos for businesses and commercials and stuff like that. So I was luckily able to do that during the pandemic and keep myself afloat that way because, you know, everyone needs a video these days. And then I also have my gear as well. So luckily that, but yeah, being on set, you know, with a 20 plus person crew is different, but definitely.
Thinking about those 12-hour days, I'm like, boy, it seems like this 3 hours, like this hour conversation we're having is exhausting me now. Because like the pandemic.
Yeah, but then you know, it's like riding a bike. Like it is scary to get back into it when you haven't done it for a minute. And you're so right that we should all continue to like create our stuff. But once you get on set, like it just snaps back in. You just fall back into what you know, like it comes naturally to you. I got 6 weeks of prep and that was very, very intense. I do agree that setting a date, if you can, for a project can create the urgency. My husband, Emily, who you know is also a director, he is a big believer in that. If you have like a passion project you want to do, but it just keeps looming out there and you don't go, okay, I want to shoot this, you know, November 15th. Like now let me back into it or whatever you have to do to force yourself to get going on it. Because I think sometimes that can be really hard, the creative motivation, or to feel like this is so overwhelming and there's so much work and money needed and et cetera. How am I going to do it? You set a date, then you can also give people those dates. Hey, I want you to act in my film. We're going to shoot on November 15th. Hey, I want you to shoot this. We're going to shoot on November 15th, so that everybody can start wrapping their head around the date, and the forward motion to that date is what happens. And I did fully steal that from my husband.
He's smart. Kayla, you got anything else that you want to throw up there? Chateau says, how do you negotiate time for rehearsal before production with actors? Do you do a lot of rehearsal? Do you pay a rehearsal rate or see if they can do it for free, cheap? Anything in the real micro budget world, everybody's working for free, even prep. Not on set necessarily, but like in prep, your DP is probably not getting paid to prep with you. Your actors are definitely not getting paid for rehearsals or fittings or any of that stuff you get in big studio world. But how did you guys deal with that because especially when you got like Emily, you had your DP for a while, you guys were working together for a while. Was it a friend? Is that why you got so much time?
We actually went to film school together, and she's definitely a huge part of the film, and like she believed in me and our careers, and yeah, we went to film school together, so she's definitely a great friend of mine. But even with that, I would say that you really have to negotiate. I mean, everyone on set had a contract and there were specific things on there regardless if they're getting paid or not. So definitely make sure you have contracts and agreements like, hey, if you're going to do this, I expect rehearsals, or like we should rehearse because that's for the best, of the film. So what we did a lot was we did do a lot of online rehearsals with a lot of the cast members, the main ones who had really like a lot of lines and that they wanted to go over. And so we definitely did that through Zoom because I was in LA and a lot of them were in Virginia, and we casted locally for some of those. And then definitely, just for the most part, when you're doing indie features and the actors, like they want their best performance, and everyone wants the best for the film. So just make sure that everyone signs their agreements and agree to doing it for whatever the compensation is. And then, everyone for the most part, like make sure you get really good energy people because it's for the best of the film. I mean, everyone is putting their heart and soul into it. So
on the note of contracts too, for you that are trying to do this micro budget, we're actually going to have a legalese in June. I think we have a legalese panel event to talk more about this stuff. But one thing I did on my last feature was do an overall money, like an overall amount. So it'd say, okay, my DP, we're going to shoot over this whole month and these days or whatever, but you're going to get paid this flat rate for you plus your gear. And they either take it or leave it. And most of the time it's just like, okay, how much money do they want to make to make their bills and their rent? And then they get to shoot a movie. And so you can get people to do that, which helps keep your costs down because daily rates can make those costs go way up. Jeannette, did you have anything to add to?
Anybody that was going to work with me on the project knew that it was going to be budgetarily challenged and time challenged. And this is my first feature. I'm trying to make a statement with it. If you want to jump on board, just know that it's going to take more than the actual shoot days that we're scheduled for. So, you know, like my cinematographer, like my production designer, like my AD, they all did free prep days because we wanted to come together as a team and make sure that we were prepared to go into this shoot. Now, if we went on a tech scout where they weren't paid, I was buying them lunch. Like I was saying to them, I appreciate you putting your time and investing this in our project, and doing that for me. So that was really nice. And then in terms of the rehearsals for the actors, I mean, this was a union movie, but they weren't paying for rehearsal time. So we had no rehearsal. We had one table read. That was it. I had side conversations with the main actors, just talking about their characters. Did they have questions about the script? Did they need anything? And so I had those conversations with each individual actor before we started shooting, but there was no rehearsal time. It was a table read and then go. That was it.
On that note, for filmmakers who are trying to do real micro budget, like under 20 grand, you can get your SAG contract for the 20 grand and under, and just negotiate all rates, including, you know, if they get anything for rehearsals or not. Rehearsals are a luxury in indie film world. And don't expect your name talent to rehearse. Like, you're probably going to meet them on the morning when they show up to do their scene. They're probably on set with you for one day and then they're gone. So again, flexibility. I want to throw Lucky's question up here. Lucky, hi, thanks for watching. What are the top lessons you learned on this film that will help you on your next film? I'll start, because the one thing I always do every time, and then I do it again and again, I'm like, I'm never doing post myself ever again. I'm not doing it with them. We don't have money for this and that and this, and then cut to like the next film. Well, let's just figure it out.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. So I will share one thing that I learned on Breeze that it's helped me as a director for sure, is that for all of us, like, trust yourself, like, trust your intuition, trust your gut. And like, there were times where I was questioning myself. I was like, wait, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? But I trusted myself. I eventually, I made the decision. And now looking back on what I did, I was like, yes, I did make the right decision. And even if I didn't, like, everything is fine. So I don't know, just trust yourself, and, you know, whatever you think is best, just go for it, because what are you going to do? Not go for it. And then just, you know, the whole what if scenario plays in your mind. So I don't know. That's basic. Like, for my next film, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. Like, let's go.
Jeannette.
I think, and this is something that I've always subscribed to, but it was even more, you know, it was even brought home more on this movie. It's like, you bring on a team that you trust, and then even though you're the overseer and even though your word is the final word, you do let them do their thing, right? So I wanted to trust my crew, and I really had to lean on them because this moved so fast and it was so big. And that's one thing I really learned. Like, just, you bring on people that you really value their artistic talent and their work ethic, and then you let them do it. You don't micromanage what they're doing. Now, were there one or two times where I would go, you know, I just don't think this shot is working, and these are the reasons, and we would go back and forth for maybe 5 minutes. I mean, I didn't have the luxury of discussing it longer, and then I would go, no, I really need to be this. But that was very rare, because I believed in what they were doing as well. Like, we're all experts in our department, so let's let people, you know, show what they can do as well. I think that was equally as important on this project for me.
I know there's a lot more questions, guys, but we are at the end of this. There have been some questions about budget and working with budget. I think maybe we'll do another micro budget series for you guys where we just dive into what does a micro budget look like? What are you actually paying for? Because that's a whole conversation. Jeannette and Emily, do you have anything you want to leave us with? And definitely remind everybody what your movies are called, and everybody follow them, and so that you can know when their next stuff is out, when Jeanette's movie is out, to see. But yeah, leave us with some final thoughts and remind everybody what your movie is.
Well, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for showing up, and thank you, Jenn and Jeannette and Kayla in the back for having me, and just really had a fun time talking with you all. My movie's Breeze Bake Off Challenge. It is on HBO Max now, or Meow, because we say now instead of meow in the movie. And yeah, the last thing I want to say is I know how scary it can be to make a feature when you feel like you don't have enough money, or when you know you don't have enough money. And I've definitely been there. But the best advice that I was given was that you just have to start where you start and make something out of nothing, like honestly. And that's one of the reasons why I was already thinking of writing the script with the resources that I had. So for filmmakers watching, you definitely have more resources than you think. If you're renting an apartment somewhere, then okay, you already have a location. Write that and make it make sense for the character and the story. So I don't know. I just want to say that, like, I know money is a sensitive topic, and I know that it's really difficult to wrap your head around it. But if you really want to be a serious filmmaker, don't use money as an excuse. I've been there and I've done that, and I've been able to push past that lack mentality and just, ask for help, be open, and just go for it. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Jeannette.
I'm gonna watch your movie today. My movie is called Diamond in the Rough, and it will be coming out end of June. I don't know where. Well, it's going to come out on the Creative Plus platform, right? They're going to have their own platform, but it's also being sold out to distribution, which I don't know what that's going to be yet. But look for it. It stars Samantha Boscolino, Griffin Johnson, David Koechner, Islam Manji, the most diverse cast I've ever worked with the most diverse crew I've ever worked with. So I'm really proud of that. And I would say, look, I've been in this business for a long time. I started in my 20s. I have 2 daughters in college, and I wanted to be a very present mother, but I still wanted to keep stretching creatively. And after my kids went to college, I said, I want to direct a feature film now. And within 2 years during a pandemic, I did it. So it's possible to continue growing creatively throughout your entire life. Just because you're in your 50s doesn't mean you can't still learn and still grow and still keep moving toward your goals and your dreams. So I just say, keep doing it, keep creating.
I love it. Thank you both for being here. You're such rock stars. And for everybody else who has left in our audience here, just so you know, our next event and final chapter, final chapter of the Microbudget series, we might be making another one for you now with the money, is post-production. And that's on June 9th. And we're going to really get into how to make post-production work and what to do in production to make sure your post-production works for Microbudget. Keep an eye out for the June newsletter. It's going to come out the first week of June. So like 2 weeks, it's going to have all the next events, other happenings at BMC, including maybe not in June, hopefully in June. We'll be also talking about the first live event we're going to do in LA this year. So keep an eye out for those things. You can submit your 20-minute or less short film to the Blackmagic Collective Film Festival. We have great prizes like cash, cameras, all kinds of fun stuff. And we feature a film every month as the pick of the month. And we shout you out and we share you all around. And if you're a member, you can submit for $5. Remember, membership is free. So easy peasy. Like and follow our socials to get updates. Join our private Facebook group where we encourage you to keep the conversation going. Everything you asked in the comments here, put it in the group, start a conversation. We really want to get that group moving so that we have somewhere to be in between events and networking and all that stuff. Thank you again to our sponsors, Blackmagic Design and Sigma. And you guys, our audience, thank you for being here. Thanks for being vocal in the comments and for asking questions and for being a community. And one of you is about to win a year subscription to Artlist, which is such a great service. I have been using Artlist for sound effects and music, and now for stock footage on ArtGrid, and I don't know how I ever live without it. It's fantastic. So, drum roll. We don't have a sound effect. We have you a drum roll. The winner is, I'm sorry if I butcher your name, but the winner is Chateau Bizarra. Chateau, Kayla will be in touch with you on how to claim that. And until next event, go keep making some movie magic. See you guys next time.